alone. I had a lot to say. Also, I was looking at a piece of cheese and rambling.
Oh, my mom.
Wow, that was so geriatric of you. Start your sublight engines. It's time for RuPaul's Pod Race, a queer Star Wars podcast. Welcome to our Mandalorian Season 3 wrap-up. It's very exciting. We're so excited to be here. My name is Ollie. I use any pronouns. You can find me on social media at OllieFresh. That's Fresh with a PH. And my gender this week is the best Star Wars series yet. The Mandalorian. It's the best one. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a little bit before the finale came out, the Star Wars social media accounts shared a video that was like an sort of like a here's what's happened so far, like a preview, like a trailer for the next episode. And one of the like pieces of text that came up in the video called it the best Star Wars series yet. And that shit had me losing my mind. It was a huge thing. A bunch of people on Twitter were like freaking out about it. We're like, okay. And I liked this season.
What is that from?
Like, it was not from a review. It was just self-claimed by the Star Wars account.
Yeah, it was like promotional material. No, okay, because I didn't catch on to that you were like bringing that up for a second, and I was like, Ollie, this is oddly high praise of the show.
To be fair, I did actually really like this season, and I like this show, and Zeb was in live action, so like kind of it is. The only thing, here's the thing. I feel like as my new Star Wars television ranking, Rebels is at the top. Zeb is in basically every episode. Number 2 is Mandalorian. Zeb is in one episode. The rest all fail, all tied for worst show because Zeb is not in them.
I do love the idea of having sort of like a sliding, like a graph of some kind that's like volume of Zeb correlated to how good the show is.
You're gonna eat your words when Zeb appears in the Book of Boba Fett Season 2.
Okay, period. When Zeb shows up in Book of Boba Fett, when Zeb shows up in Andor, it will skyrocket to the top of the list.
When will Zeb be in Star Wars Visions?
Okay, real. When will Zeb be in Young Jedi Adventures?
Hi, my name is Claudia. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on social media at Kaludia Says, Kaludia Says. My gender this week is Din Djarin skipped the Armor Bo-Katan wedding on Mandalore because he's homophobic.
So true, especially considering we've just received word that they did talk about Din and Bo, at least according to Katie Sackhoff.
It was more like they were having a laugh behind the scenes. They were having a bit of a laugh.
I hate gay people. I'm also homophobic is the thing. I say this like I don't also think that Bo in the armor is very slay. I also think it's fun. I think
definitely had a vibe.
They did have a vibe. I do like Axe Woves in his best man era. Axe was a wedding officiant.
Okay, I do feel like Axe Woves would run a bachelorette party like it was the Navy.
Oh, wow. No, he is like, I wasn't sure which one you wanted, so I hired 2 strippers.
Who were the strippers, quickly?
What the fuck I don't think we have any.
I wasn't there.
Greatstorm.
Okay, Loden Greatstorm Impersonator?
You guys ever think if there was like a brand of Star Wars cocaine called Loden Greatstorm and it was just sort of like a grayish color?
You, Noah. So, hi, I'm Jess. My pronouns are there. I don't know what my pronouns are.
You're so real for that.
Through it. Let's just go back to they, them. I don't know.
Do not refer to Jess.
Don't refer to me. You can find me on social media at Kawaii Jessio, and my gender this week is Real Women of Mandalore.
Would you like to explain that name to the class, Jess?
There was a thing. I only learned about this because Mel sent me a TikTok this morning. And then, Sarah Huckabee.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
Light of my life.
Sorry, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Fucking a real ass video out there that feels like it could be like an SNL skit, but they have this little jingle and they're talking about like real women in politics. It's just like, what is this? This doesn't feel like real life, but it is in fact a real thing, a real little ad.
Okay, I love Sarah Huckabee Sanders Bo-Katan parallels.
No, because here's the thing.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah, Bo-Katan is not doing Real Women of Mandalore because she respects trans people and won't create a Sarah Huckabee Sanders themed beer cozy.
No, she loves her trans partners Din Djarin and the Armorer.
Exactly.
No, what if it's like real Mandos of Mandalore, but then it's just Gideon pretending to be Mandalorians with his little stormtroopers?
I will say, when you said Real Mandos of Mandalore, my first thought was you were making a Housewives reference, which is a television show that I would watch happily.
Oh, I would love to watch some manufactured drama. Axe Wolves was meant to be like a heel on that show. Are you kidding?
You're so right. When will Dorinda come on The Mandalorian?
Dorinda won't even come on Real Housewives anymore, babes.
That's true. Can we get Countess Luann?
Okay.
Countess Luann.
Who is the most Countess Luann coded in Star Wars?
This is a personal anecdote. I almost saw her cabaret show and then I wasn't able to go because someone else sold the tickets that we were going with, and I was so depressed about it for like weeks. I really wanted to see her sing Money Can't Buy You Class.
I was supposed to go and then they canceled it because of COVID.
That's awful. We need to crowdfund a trip for the RuPaul's to go see Countess Luann's cabaret show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm Noah. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on social media at The Jewish Jedi. And my agenda this week is Moff Gideon's Gone Girl era, because he was sort of giving Amy Dunn for like half of this season. Like, he was leaving clues, implying he'd been murdered, even though he wasn't, had a stunning reveal prepared. I mean, all he needs now is an awful blunt bob, and we are set to go.
Oh, I was going to say he needs to murder Neil Patrick Harris, but okay.
Well, don't we all?
I'm like the Mandalorian.
I'm obsessed with that. I also just love the idea of Moff Gideon sort of getting away in his little ship and being like, I'm so much happier now that I'm dead. Like, I know he has that monologue down to a science.
My name is Mel. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me on social media at Melvin Copa and on TikTok at Grunkle Rex. And my gender this week is Reddit. Am I the asshole for wanting to reclaim Mandalore?
Who said that?
Real.
Bo-Katan.
Why would she be on Am I the Asshole?
Well, Claudia, sometimes the Am I the Asshole stories, the person is not the asshole, but they just need to be reaffirmed.
Yeah, and I think also she was having a lot of self-doubt. She needed some affirmation from the pinnacle of society, Redditors.
Yeah, I feel like she's been on that. Here's the problem. I feel like she's posted that same exact story on Reddit twice. The first time after the events of Rebels, and everyone was like, yeah, you are the asshole. And she was like, okay, well, fuck me, I guess. And then she posted it this time, and she's like, finally, the girlies are developing brain cells. I'm getting some support. And then she did it. Making herstory.
She's kind of Elizabeth Warren coded.
Don't.
I thought you were going to say
Don't
Elizabeth
ever
Holmes,
say
and I
that.
was like, don't do that to her.
Elizabeth Holmes. Okay. Bo-Katan as played by Elizabeth Holmes.
No!
So it's called the Darksaber because
I feel like
it is
we've made
dark
this
and a
joke
saber.
before. Like, we
Claudia,
have to have.
I'll make this joke till the end of time.
Yeah, we
because
know. We know.
Okay, homophobe.
All right.
Nina, what is your deal today?
She gathered a bit. No, she gathered a little bit. I'll go over that. Listen, I'm sorry you think the idea of Din meeting Bo-Katan for the first time in season 2 before she takes off her helmet and going, he's one of those. Like some random bullshit like that. Taking off her helmet to reveal her horribly not combed blonde hair and awful turtleneck.
I think we need more Star Wars characters who wear turtlenecks, not because it's like underneath the outfit or whatever, because for utility. They just need to wear them as a fashion statement.
See, this is why fucking me plugging for Light and Dice. This is why Lysander wears a turtleneck. I'm ahead of the curve. Step up, Star Wars. Be me. Be better.
You're so real for that.
So what did everyone think? This is our episode. We're going to talk about like our overall thoughts about this season of The Mandalorian, all the fun little intricacies of it and whatnot. So that's where we're at today. As I sort of alluded to, I think that this show I liked it. I thought it was good. Zeb was there, but I liked it aside from Zeb being there. I think let's get the purple elephant. let's the purple elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. He was there, and that changed my perception of the show. That episode came out on my birthday. It changed me as a person, but I liked it for other reasons too.
I will say this. Thank you. That is all. No, here's the thing. Let me start with the hashtag positives because I did like a lot of this show. I liked the themes it tried to explore. A lot of the action sequences were genuinely very fun to watch and not just like boring. Like Din and Bo doing their little like robot street chase moment. That was really slayful. I was like, this was good. And also, there were like some shots that were like so dark that even with all the lights off, curtains drawn, I was never going to find out what was going on there. A lot of the like directing was actually quite competent. A lot of the scenes on the surface of Mandalore with like the green glass like shards all around, I was like, this
shout
is, like,
out to Rick. It's Rick.
It was really pretty to look at, and also like Bryce Dallas Howard's episode was obviously like really wonderfully directed. Like this season had a lot of really like cool things to look at, which I appreciated. Also, we got a lot of fun little creatures and large creatures, like that fucked up alligator/crocodile thing from the beginning. Like, I don't know. I love a fucked up little creature. So I was thrilled to see so much of that. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite thing Star Wars has ever put out, but it definitely was fun for most of it.
Vis-a-vis creatures, that was something I loved about this season, and something that I did, like, I don't think that this is like a major criticism of the show or anything, but it's something that I really miss, like in Andor, because I feel like Andor had a lot of very compelling performances. It had a lot of really interesting characters, but I think sometimes, I don't want to say I would like forget it with Star Wars, because that's not what I mean, but like, I was like, every so often I'd be like, it would be fun if there was like a fucked up little creature or like a person who is not a human. Every so often that would be, or like a character that was not a human. And
it took until like the later half of the season for there to be non-humans, which we talked about in here. I mean, I feel like what you were trying to say of like, oh, it's not like it didn't feel like Star Wars. It definitely, you forgot that it was not that it was science fiction, but that this is a world where there are many species, and that is an interesting part of the world building, which I would say a lot of Star Wars forgets. A lot of the that is a criticism I have of the Mandalorian in general. Like, if they're all foundlings, there should be non-human Mandalorians.
Yeah, but I digress. I think that was something that, like, it didn't really affect my enjoyment of Andor, but it was something I didn't realize I missed until we had all these little guys in this show. So I was very excited by that. That was just very charming to me.
Well, you see, Claudia, Paz Vizsla was a Nikto.
Yes.
You just never saw him without his helmet.
That's so true.
I mean, there's possibility a lot of those bitches didn't take their helmet off. What if the armorer takes her helmet off and she's like, yeah, guys, I've actually been a Trandoshan this whole time?
Good for her.
That would be really slay.
I just want to say, like, it is hard to sometimes judge these shows as they are airing. It's weird because I've said a lot of this stuff before, but, like, I do like the week-to-week release model. I think dumping everything at once sucks ass. We should never do it, whatever. That being said, for stuff with large fandoms where people won't shut the fuck up and, like, just chew on things in a way that, like, you know, we have everybody talking about who are the spies for a week and shit like that, it is annoying. And, like, I remember the same thing happening when Rebels was coming out, and, like, people just going in on that shit, whatever, and we never really could just, like, play in the space that much. That being said, Rebels had more episodes per season. I will be very interested to see how people feel about this show as a whole, on the binge, all 3 seasons, I guess, plus the Book of Boba Fett, which is going to be a uphill struggle to inform people that you have to watch that in between seasons 2 and 3. Worst decision ever. I will be very interested to see how people feel about this show as a whole, on the binge, all 3 seasons, I guess, plus the Book of Boba Fett, which is going to be a uphill struggle to inform people that you have to watch that in between seasons 2 and 3. Worst decision ever. versus the people who have been watching it as it came out. Because like Rebels, people are like, yeah, that's a masterpiece. But when it was coming out, it was like walking uphill, trying to get people to get it, trying to get people to like it, trying to get people not to nitpick it, blah, 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 blah. And there were some things like the more ridiculous stuff that people were willing to let slide because they're like, it's a kid show. It's a kid show, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This show, and this is just like a Disney thing in general, but this is like Star Wars, like this is general industry problem or whatever, is like Disney does not make, I mean, they have stuff that is for kids, Disney Junior, whatever, but this isn't for kids. This is for families. This is womb to tomb. And that's why you have this issue. And you have shows like Andor that are more for adults. You have Young Jedi Adventures, which are for kids. You have like whatever. But then The Mandalorian is very much in the tradition of, even more so than the animated shows, because those were on kids' networks and were like Disney XD and Cartoon Network, where they were bridging a kind of audience back and forth. This show is even more in the style of the movies, which was very much for families. And so you get a lot of seriousness and a lot of silliness and whatever, and it sits in this weird place. And that's why you have people who either love Star Wars or you hate it, because it naturally sits in this place. So it's hard to judge almost like, I think I'm going to have to rewatch it at some point and look at all 3 seasons together. I feel like it's going to flow a lot better, all 3 seasons together. That is also because it will feel like more of a cohesive unit because, again, they should have longer seasons. That being said, I'm sure I was not watching the Clone Wars week to week when it came out, but I probably would have had the same feeling about the Clone Wars, being like, wait, what the fuck? We're on Dathomir now? Like, I probably would have felt the same way. And I think that, I appreciate what it is trying to do. I appreciate how it is a lot of people's on-ramp into Star Wars, and it spiritually, it has almost all the same problems that Star Wars has always had in appealing to different audiences when it works and when it doesn't work. I appreciate it experimenting. Sometimes it failed. Sometimes it did really well. And in the end, it's, I did what I feel like a decent Star Wars does, which is I am invested in the characters. I am feeling emotions for them most of the time. Am I getting the most out of it that I should? No. As someone on Tumblr said, they were like, you know what? Star Wars is like, it's like Cheetos for me. Am I going in expecting a full meal? No, I'm not. Am I having a great time? Yes, I am. That's why when we watch Andor, we're like, oh, wow, I'm getting a full meal from Star Wars. That's crazy. I do feel like almost comparing this show and this season, I feel like I'm talking about The Mandalorian as a whole, but like this show to the animated shows also does a big disservice because animation is so different. And they're doing it for a different audience and whatever, even though we have Dave Filoni and is pulling from some of the same sources. For example, I am a Return of the Jedi, not a hater, but Return of the Jedi is not my favorite Star Wars movie. I would not pick it to rewatch. There's a lot of pieces of it that I think are bad and stupid, but I will still watch it and I still think it's fun. I feel that way about parts of The Mandalorian, but as a whole, I'm still having a good time and I love it very much. Like, Din Djarin showing up and beating ass I'm still going to jump out of my seat the same way that Luke Skywalker is showing up with the Chanel boots. So I feel like the best way I can describe this season is, you know what? It was the most Star Wars could be, which is mostly great with some very puzzling choices.
I feel like the mostly great with very puzzling choices aspect characterizes a lot of how I felt about this. I don't know. My thing is, I think the only thing that you can really feasibly compare The Mandalorian, like individual seasons to, is the Book of Boba Fett insofar as like structure, episode length, etc. Because I agree that comparing it to Andor is not fair to either one because like they set out with such different intentions and they had such different ideas. That said, I feel like The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett both suffer from this problem of like they only have so many hours to use and they radically underutilize them. And I'm not trying to be like the sort of capitalist overlord, we must have efficiency in everything for it to work, but like if you tell me I've got 8 hours collectively to tell you a story, you kind of have to use like every single one of the minutes you're given. And when The Mandalorian does linger, I find that it doesn't linger on more poignant moments that like could have been interesting to spend time with. Like there are a lot of interactions that I think could have been sort of like more well developed, I guess. I don't know. Like, I look back to that episode with Pershing and Elia Kane, and like the more the season went on, the more I was like, okay, this is actually a good episode because it did really situate us in like this era of Star Wars that we do explore very little. But its point in the season felt really weird. Like, looking back, I'm like, I actually would have put that closer to the middle, because by that point, when we saw that episode, I was like, there's shit moving with the plot of these characters that we care about. Now we're going on pause to see these guys. Like, so there were just like some structural choices that I feel could have been done differently. But ultimately, the final product is not something that I think is bad.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think something that, especially bringing up that episode, I think it's less that the content is bad, and it's more that the pacing is weird, because I think something that I noticed a lot about that episode, and something that I said when it came out, is that I was like, it would have been really nice to see this episode of Pershing and Elia Kane doing their thing where she's pretending to be his friend and then isn't really, and have that intercut with Din and Bo doing their thing, so you can see this is what an actual bond between two people looks like. And just having some juxtaposition and a little bit different pacing there. But I think you could say that about every episode of this season, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And I noticed is that, like, there were no, like, I don't think the acting was bad. I think the acting was really good. But I can't point out, like, this was where there was a standout performance. Like, there were plenty of good moments and plenty of good acting choices. But I think that might be a symptom of the writer's room, not to harp on it so early in our episode. But there weren't a lot of times in the script for there to be, like, a big acting moment. Like, and I think that you could make an argument that that's not quite what this show is for. This show is like, you're playing with your action figures and you're getting shit done and you're doing a party, whatever. But I always think about this, and again, I know we just said it's not useful to compare them, but it reminds me a lot of, like, it's hard not to compare this season that's all about Mandalore and the Darksaber to the episode Trials of the Darksaber from Rebels. And I think about, which is probably one of the best scenes in Star Wars, like, objectively, is Sabine fighting with Kanan and having that meltdown where she talks about, like, I did this for my family and I got, like, fucked over for it. And I compare, like, that, you know, that type of character growth. And again, it's not fair to compare them. Rebels has so many more episodes and we've done so much more with those characters, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I just don't think that we're going to get to a point in The Mandalorian, if it continues the way it does, I don't think we're going to have a point where we will get those kind of scenes.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too, actually, because the other thing is, like, season 1 and 2, whilst these sort of hashtag acting moments happened towards the end, they did happen. Like, the scene of Din giving Grogu to Luke, like, is very emotional and is, like, to me, a very beautiful scene. But yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that scene in Rebels with Sabine training with the Darksaber a lot during this season, because I was like, this would be something really interesting to see Bo-Katan similarly explore, of, like, because you can tell there's a lot of moments where she'll even explicitly say about, like, her guilt at her feeling of betraying her own people, of failing as a leader, of her, like, she at one point is like, you know, Mandalorians have been torn apart by infighting and, like, division, and she clearly does feel like she played some part in doing at least, like, a section of that. I just wish that they had, like, let her explore that, because the acting chops were there. It's just that they needed to be given, like, the conceptual and verbal space to exist.
Like, the dialogue has to be written in a way that allows for experimentation with acting. And I think I'll say this, I think Jon Favreau is a fine story writer. I think he's fine at developing a plot. I think that it tends to be the character writing and the actual
yeah, I agree.
Like, the actual dialogue that becomes a problem. Like, we all know that scene where Luke Skywalker's talking to Grogu in Book of Boba Fett, where he's like, I had a friend. His name was Yoda. You remind me of Yoda a lot. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that scene, but it was like, what the fuck are you? This is not how
who would say that? Well, okay, but, like, I look back to that scene early in this season where Din goes to Bo-Katan and is like, hey, girly, I'm here to help you retake Mandalore. And she just looks like totally lost, and she's like, you have that sword, they'll follow you anywhere, and she just sounds like so broken. And I was like, yes, exactly, give me more of this. Like, the acting was there, we just needed more dialogue moments to deliver it. And, like, people also will accuse Pedro's performance of being flat, and I'm like, I don't think this performance is flat. I think that the dialogue they've written for this character does not give him a lot of leeway in terms of being a super emotional guy.
To speak on that, I would also say, like, there were glimmers of things like Din is opening up to more people. Like, we can see that in his actions. He's opening up to more people. He's like all these whatever. It would have been interesting to see, like, he talks to people more. He's a bit more open. He's a bit whatever. Like, he has almost the same amount of lines as he does in the first couple seasons. Like, people think of him as, like, stoic or whatever. Like, he was being the same sassy whatever. It would be interesting if, like, he's saying more stuff. Like, there was a joke of, like, oh, he doesn't know shit about Star Wars because he barely says anything and just like, most of the time in the first 2 seasons. It would have been interesting, like, he's a man about town. Like, we're not showing the development of time. Like, people are like, oh, this takes place over 3 years. I don't realize. Like, again, we've said this like 8,000 times. This goes back to, number one, it feeling like a first draft. And this is not me bashing on The Mandalorian. This is not me bashing on Star Wars. This is all of television right now. There are some standout pieces of television like Succession, like Andor, like whatever, that are like Abbott Elementary, that feel out of place because they are written the way that television should be written right now. But like, there's a lot of TV that is like this where it feels like a first draft. And you're like, why? What is off about this? Like, all the elements are here. Like, there's a lot of people who are like, I thought this was shit, or I thought this whatever. I'm like, I actually quite enjoyed myself. But there's also, and we've also talked about how the whole, like, Disney, if you're gonna go whole ham, where you are tying into the Ahsoka TV show, and you're basically making Rebels 2 Electric Boogaloo, which is basically just Clone Wars 3 Electric Boogaloo, whatever, you need to mention people's names like Satine. Or if you're not going to mention their name, at least, like, for example, I bring up my friend Mars, who doesn't know a lot about Star Wars, but who has written a really good article about this, whatever, who has, The Mandalorian is for people like them, and has worked on them, completely getting them invested in Star Wars and the lore of Mandalore. They want to go watch the Clone Wars and Rebels now because of this show. It has worked on them. The Disney propaganda has worked. However, even for them, and to be fair, they are a screenwriter, whatever, but even for them, they were like, wait, so what are the things that Bo-Katan is referencing? It was almost like, again, we needed a second draft because it was like, all of the elements are here. You need to mention that Bo-Katan was a part of the schism. Like, not only she experienced the Civil War and then participated in it, and that's why she feels guilt and has to do, it's like doing Maul's redemption without knowing, and Maul doesn't really do a redemption. It's like doing Ventress's redemption or whatever without having half the story, which it technically is what Rebels does, to be fair, but because you don't have Clone Wars or whatever. But in Rebels, he talks about it. He says it outright. He says, this and this and this happened. He has a conversation with Ezra Bridger. Ezra Bridger is the fill-in for the audience at that point, if you hadn't seen the Clone Wars, and he's like, I was a Sith Lord. I was this, I was that. It didn't work out for me. They fucked me over, and this is where I am now. And we don't have that with Bo-Katan. We have references to it, whatever. And I'm like, that is the piece. That is what The Mandalorian in general, and frankly, a lot of franchise media, and frankly, a lot of television in general feels like, where you're just like, this has everything except one thing. And I think that's why Andor felt so satisfying, whatever, because you're just like, oh, it has the missing thing. Like that is why it feels frustrating, because you're like, oh, you just needed one more little thing.
I think that's also a thing about, like, there's one guy in the writer's room, and you can see a lot of his biases when watching the show. Like, I think that it was like, we really should have had more references to what happened in the Clone Wars. And I will also be one of the people who's frustrated that they didn't bring up Satine even once. And I thought about it, and I was like, okay, this is written from a very male perspective, because he is not valuing the relationship between two women. And I'm not saying like Jon Favreau's a misogynist who doesn't think women can have friendships or whatever, because that's not true. Because Bo-Katan is able to build important relationships with other women in the show. Not as much as, she probably could. But I digress. That's why I was thinking about it when it's like Bo-Katan talks about her father before her sister, who we know she has a history with. And I thought about that, and I was like, that's because it's coming from a very male perspective of being like, this is how I am conceptualizing relationships, and like, who is an important relationship to this character? Oh, her father, because that's, he was in charge. You know, I think that a lot of the problems that we have with this, like, storytelling come from the fact that you have a guy who knows everything about the Clone Wars, who knows everything about Bo-Katan, is writing it. That's why I'm excited for the Acolyte. Because everyone's like, oh, well, one of the writers in the writer's room didn't really know that much about Revenge of the Sith, or not Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, and didn't really know what Luke and Leia's situation was. And I'm like, that's a good thing, because now you have someone like Leslie Headland, who's running the show, who knows a lot about Star Wars, who can say, here's what's happening. And if someone is like, I actually don't understand that, or why this is important, then you can add more context. And that is, like, I think that that's a much better writing choice. And this, again, is not to say one guy can't write a passion project, but I think when you're tying together a bigger universe and you don't tell people that they have, like, what they need to get context, it's going to be hard. Like, I'm very conflicted about what's happening with the Ahsoka show, because we have recently learned, to shocking no one, that Dave Filoni wrote all the episodes. And I'm conflicted because I'm like, those are Dave's characters. Like, if anyone knows them, it's him. So I'm like, yeah, like, he should be writing all of the episodes to some extent, but it would be really nice to have someone else in the room to be like, hey, think about this, like, cultural competency, or think about this, like, the fact that people might not have context for this. And I'll have to reserve judgment until I actually see the show, but you see it a lot in this show, where I'm like, it would have been nice to have someone who maybe was not as deep in the shits as John or as Dave to be like, hey guys, I don't know what the fuck is going on, so could we explain?
Well, and I think that's also why, like, Andor has the same problem of, like, only a few fucking people writing episodes, which we talked about our criticisms of Andor as well. It had the bonus of, like, Tony Gilroy is not in the shits. I mean, that's why they brought on Tony Gilroy to help with Rogue One. Tony Gilroy was not in the shits with Star Wars, and they brought him in for the storytelling. Also, just looking at it from, like, not even a cultural competency thing, just from a pure writing standpoint, if you look at the number of writers on The Mandalorian or on Andor versus the number of writers on Star Wars Rebels, it's like less than a third. And that's the thing, or the Clone Wars, whatever. Now, obviously, so I'm comparing it to Rebels, because at this point with The Mandalorian we're about 3 seasons and Rebels is 4. Right now, the only people with writing credits on The Mandalorian are Jon Favreau, George Lucas, because he always has one, Dave Filoni, Rick, Christopher L. Yost, who worked on Rebels, and
Christopher Yost, showrunner on Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the best cartoon animated, the best comic adaptation ever. Anyway,
and Noah Clore. That's it. In 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, that's it. And I feel like Ahsoka will very much be like Andor, where it's like, I'll let it slide, because in this case, those are his little babies, and he'll get it. He gets it. I'm fine. But, like, then you look at Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, there are a significant number of people on Star Wars Rebels who are, like, people who've been at Lucasfilm for a while. Like, Carrie Beck and Carrie Hart, whatever. Like, they've been development execs and worked at various parts of Lucasfilm for a long time. But then there's, like, a lot of people. Shout out to Gary Witta's 4 episodes. You are my bestie, girl. I know exactly what episodes you wrote. Henry Gilroy. Like, a lot of different people, Simon Kinberg, like, there's a lot of people on Rebels. And if you look at Clone Wars, I mean, that's 7 seasons. That's going to be way more. But it's like, you can tell. Anyway, all of this to say, support the WGA writers strike. They're going to beat the AMPTP into the ground. I feel like the Mandalorian is very much a microcosm of, like, all of the issues in television, but with just the added issues of Star Wars itself. That being said, I do feel like the discourse online has been a bit out of pocket. Some people are like, this is terrible, fuck this. And then some people are like, this is the best. And I'm like, it's neither, but okay. But I mean, again, I love The Mandalorian. I still put it in my top tier of Star Wars TV shows. It's not like my tippity top, but, like, I love it. It just, some of the problems are becoming more evident. I feel like some of the problems that probably were even present in the beginning that people glorify a lot are just becoming more evident as it goes on.
I was going to say I can't offer The Mandalorian that same sympathy because Cobb Vanth made exactly 0 appearances in this season, and for that reason, I really can't give her any credit. Sorry to say it. No. I don't know.
To be honest, I don't know if I really liked it. I don't know, maybe I've just been blinded by my hatred for Jon Favreau that, like, looking at The Mandalorian, I'm just like, maybe I fucking hate you. Maybe I don't like Star Wars. But I mean, there were fun moments. Like I said, like in each episode that we have discussed, like there's been some fun, funky, fresh time. I don't know. I haven't sat down to try and rewatch it as a whole in like one go. Haha ho. Sorry. But I mean, maybe I'll go back and rewatch it eventually. I don't know if I want to rewatch it now.
Yeah, I gotta say, I find myself in this weird crossroads where on one hand, I'm like, I don't know. For me, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. I had fun watching it, but it's not something I'm going to be like jumping to revisit, you know? Like something about Star Wars Rebels that I love is the first year that I watched it, I rewatched the show 6 times, which that is a red flag in itself. However,
no, it's very rewatchable. Like, it's very rewatchable. You are valid and not mentally ill.
Well, I don't know if that's quite, I wouldn't go that far, but
maybe Rebels wasn't the indicator. We can say that.
Sure. Okay. Right. But like I could rewatch it and like find something new every time that I found interesting about it, right? The Mandalorian, I don't know that has that same rewatchability for me. It's been a minute since I've rewatched everything, and I certainly not with the inclusion of this newest season. But I remember at one point I did rewatch the show. I don't know if it was just like with family or what have you, but I was just like, oh, okay, this is fine. And so I think that it is something that just like, oh yeah, right, we watched it with Julia. We watched it with family. Aw. Anyways, upon rewatching it, I was just like, okay, this is fine. These are things that are happening in Star Wars, which is okay. It's just fine. That being said, I do feel like this is a show that really does cater to a family audience. I think that and that's not a bad thing. Like when I say that, that's not me being like, oh, well, because it's a family show, I don't give a fuck about it. I only either want a child show or an adult show. Nothing in between. Yeah, so it's a family show, and I like it for that reason. I think that like it is a really fun way to explore certain themes. I think the one thing I take issue with that, though, is that we don't get to dive into those themes, and that kind of leaves something lacking for me.
I think you bring up a really good point in talking about like how it is a family show. And I know we've already talked about it a little, but I think sometimes we forget the scope of this show because I was talking to someone that I know who watches it with his daughter, and I was like, oh, how'd you like the finale? He was like, I've never been more excited about a finale. It was so good. We had so much fun. My daughter loved it and was just singing its praises because he's not like, you know, it's not that he doesn't give a fuck about it, but it's like, this is a fun thing to watch for half an hour to 45 minutes every week. So, you know, I just, trying to put it into context is always weird.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, like, rewatchability. I think it's telling that the only episode of The Mandalorian I've ever watched more than once is The Marshal. I know this will shock all in the audience.
That's because you're gay, not because it's good. I also think it's okay.
Fuck right off.
Okay, to be fair, I do think it's good.
No. Also, don't try to back yourself out of this homophobic corner you painted yourself into.
It is also a ripoff of The Seven Samurai, but it's a good episode.
And what about it?
It's like the second time Dave Filoni was like, let me rip off The Seven Samurai. But then again, it's a good episode. I'm just saying it
anyway,
may be because you're gay.
My point was I think something that I liked a lot about the earlier seasons was that some of the episodes were these really great little self-contained narratives that also furthered a bigger story. And I feel like this season kind of grappled with the ability to have it both ways. But yeah, I don't know. I have not ever rewatched The Mandalorian. I don't foresee myself doing that in the future. It is a show that I enjoy, but in no capacity beyond, like, that sentence wasn't going anywhere. I'll let y'all know now. That sentence is not going anywhere. I'll just say this. It's a show that I like. It is not a show that I'm, like, madly in love with and I'll be rewatching till the end of time.
No, I feel you on that. Like, before, I used to think The Mandalorian was my favorite, like, Star Wars show. But, you know, it also was, like, the first kind of Star Wars show that was live action, at least. Because, you know, obviously it wasn't the first Star Wars show. Clone Wars and Rebels exist. But, as, like, you know, a newer fan, that's what got me into Star Wars. And maybe now that I have been bestowed or maybe cursed with more knowledge of Star Wars, even though I kept saying, like, I was trying not to have expectations of things, you know, you can't always stop yourself from having expectations for things. So maybe I just wanted more. Maybe that's a me problem. But it is a show that, yeah, like, because I know I watched with my older sister, too. And she, as someone who is not cursed with knowledge now, enjoyed the show a lot. So, I don't know where I was going with this, to be honest. I'm just talking.
Real. We have a podcast. I think it's fine. I will say, as someone who's on sort of the other end of the spectrum, I've rewatched every episode of The Mandalorian, not this season, at least 3 times. I watched it once by myself, like right after season 2 had come out. I watched it with my mom, who knows basically nothing about Star Wars, when COVID was really in the heights of it. And then I watched it with people who knew a lot about Star Wars when I watched it with our friend Julia Christine 77 of Star Wars English class, and I watched with Mel. And I think that it's hard because I actually really enjoyed rewatching the first, like, 2 seasons. And I feel like this season is different from the other 2. Like, and maybe it's just because the first 2 seasons have been out for so long now, so it's like we have this other perception, because it's like, oh, this is The Mandalorian, this is what The Mandalorian is. But I almost felt like the end of season 2 was like a very good, like, finale. Like, it was like, oh, this is a good kind of ending of the show. And I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not saying, like, it should have ended there, but I'm like, it had a lot of expectations to live up to, because it felt like a very, like, his quest from the first season, like, from the first 2 episodes, Din's quest to bring Grogu to someone had been finished. He did his thing. So now it's hard to say, like, what kind of journey is our hero on now? And I don't know if this season, like, it sort of drifted away from Din being, like, the main character, and I'm okay with that. I really loved Bo-Katan. I love her getting her time to shine, but I do kind of wish that it had, you know, we had used Din to frame the show a little more, because I think something that worked really well was that because he had grown up very sheltered, he was our POV character for a lot of this. And now that we're talking about the Children of the Watch, it's something he knows a lot about, so we're not getting him as the POV character as much. And because Bo-Katan is so in the shits of the Star Wars universe, she can't really be the POV character, like, who, like, the reason that all this stuff gets explained. So it felt like it feels like a distinctly different vibe from the first 2 seasons. I don't know. Maybe upon rewatch, I'll feel differently. I still liked it, to clarify.
I get you on that, because, like, yeah, I definitely, because I've rewatched the first and second season, not recently, but, like, I've actually sat down and rewatched the first and second seasons because like I said, I liked The Mandalorian. But yeah, you bring that up. This season did feel a little, like, maybe tonally different. I don't know. But yeah, maybe if I rewatch them all again later on, I'll, like, see it differently. But
that's why I was very interested, actually, to see how other people would feel about it. I also think that, like, it was meant to feel tonally different because his journey has changed. His journey has gone from, it is about the child, to now it is about me and it's about my culture. Again, that would have hit a lot better if they hadn't spent half of it in the Book of Boba Fett. Frankly, I think it would have been really fun if like we had done all the stuff, if the Book of Boba, we've said this before again, but like if the Book of Boba Fett had been an arc in The Mandalorian and Din had like been there helping Boba out, kind of much like he was helping Bo-Katan out, like could have kept the procedural nature, could have focused on Bo-Katan, could have still dealt with all this Darksaber stuff, whatever. I will also say the loss of the parallels to, there's also, you know, the whole like Star Wars, it's like poetry, it rhymes thing. Like, yeah, not everything has to be a reference. However, in some things where not everybody's going to consume every part of Star Wars, sometimes having things be a reference is helpful thematically, because it's like, I've said this many times, Din Djarin is just Sabine 2 Electric Boogaloo for in many ways for Dave Filoni. And I'm like, okay, well, the way that you made Sabine, and I remember when he did this, because I remember when the episodes were airing and I was recapping those episodes of involving Mandalorian lore, because at first Sabine was kind of a one-dimensional character for the first like season and a half, 2 seasons. And then they gave her a lot of time and they've really invested in the Mandalorian shit in the second 2 seasons, when, much like the Mandalorian after season 2, the scope of Rebels went outside of Lothal. The scope of the Mandalorian has expanded. Like, we had direct visual parallels with with Din and the Darksaber, and also Sabine and the Darksaber. And the whole point was that the Darksaber was supposed to signify, like, what is my relationship to my culture, etc., etc. I'm not supposed to be the one who has it. I'm not supposed to be the ruler of it, whatever. I'm passing it on. I'm a part of its legacy. I'm etc., etc. But again, it was that thing of like, we're missing one thing. We didn't have that scene that Ollie said, like with Kanan. We don't have like, we have there's too many missing pieces kind of deal. And it's like, you know, if you've never seen Rebels, that would still be a very compelling narrative for Din to have. I think that's the connective tissue, because like, and this is again, like, I feel like I'm saying the same shit over and over again, but it's like, again, it's not like I think the Mandalorian's going to end after this season. I do think they tied it up. Like, if we come back, we come back. Or when we come back, it'll be very different after the Ahsoka show, and there's going to be a movie and et cetera, et cetera. But it was like, I think it should have been 4 seasons like Rebels was, where the first 2 are very focused on the crew and Lothal and whatever, and then we expand to the wider galaxy. And it's like, okay, first 2 seasons are about his journey with Grogu, and then it expands to his journey with himself and his culture. And doing all that in 1 season and then being like, okay, we're gonna go hang out with Ahsoka and then we'll come back, is like, oh, we can't do that. And all of that being said, 2 seasons of Rebels are half as long as the other 2. So it's not like I'm asking for a lot. But I'm just saying, like, pacing is an issue. I definitely think that this show, like, when you're saying like, oh, on rewatchability, like, I don't have the need to rewatch certain Star Wars movies. I will if I'm going to do a full rewatch and I love showing it to people, whatever. There are certain Star Wars movies where I'm like, it's not like I don't like this one. There's a lot of parts of it that I love. I would not put this on. That's how I feel about The Mandalorian, which is ironic considering that Din Djarin is one of my favorite characters. That's how I feel about, like I said earlier, Return of the Jedi, where it, like, has some of Lando's most slay moments, even though he's one of my favorite characters, that kind of thing. One can have nuance, love. I guess that's the point here. I think, and this goes back to what Jess was saying, I do think the Book of Boba Fett thing was their biggest fumble. I think it was their biggest fumble. It affected this story. It could have been combined with this season. If it had been done correctly, it could have been a full season 3 and 4. If it was the thing, I think I talked about this on TikTok where I said that I was like, you had the 2 biggest stars of the Star Wars. You had Mr. Original Star Wars, who's Luke Skywalker, and then you deep fake the fuck out of him and put him where no one wanted him. Then you had Mr. New Star of the Star Wars, Grogu, and somehow you fumbled the bag. You put them in the sideshow that you didn't market correctly, that people didn't realize they needed to watch to understand the plot of The Mandalorian. You deep faked Luke Skywalker's face instead of just having, blonde twink with a lightsaber, which is how most people recognize Luke Skywalker anyway. He doesn't have to look exactly like fucking Mark Hamill. Have someone with a brain in the fucking room. My God. And I was like, how do you fumble? It's like you had it in the basket, and then you somehow fucked it up. I don't know how you fucked it up.
It's like that episode of that one show. I don't even remember what show it is, but it's a medical drama where the guy is running with the heart to do the heart transplant, and then he trips and the heart flies out of the box, and then a random dog comes up and eats it. Yeah, that's like what they did. Because I agree completely. I think it's funny because I'm like, you really had something there. Also, I'm just justice for Tem. Like, you deserve to be in this season. And Book of Boba Fett, Din's parts in Book of Boba Fett were really good. And I will say, like, I am also, like, a Book of Boba Fett enjoyer. Like, everyone hates on Book of Boba Fett. I think that it has its criticisms, but I really, really enjoyed most of it. And
there's so many good moments with Din and Boba in it.
If it had been in this show, it would have been much better, and more people would have watched it. Like, if it had been in the same, like, title.
Thematically, it also ties it together really well, because another thing of, like, fumbling the bag is, like, you had Boba Fett. Everybody's already on board for Boba Fett. Everybody already loves Boba Fett. They're like, this is our little Gupshido. We want to learn more about him. And then you were like, let's not. Let's do nothing with him. They had Fennec Shand, who they introduced, and everyone was like, who is she? She looks kind of neat. Do nothing with her. But the whole thing was that, like, the Mandalorian, people who don't know shit about Star Wars look at Din Djarin and they think he's Boba Fett because the original Mandalorian is Boba Fett. So, like, tying them together in the show thematically would have been helpful. And the whole thing is about figuring out who you are as a Mandalorian, and you have one side of the spectrum is Bo-Katan, and the other side of the spectrum is Boba Fett, and in the middle is Din Djarin, because he has several partners as well. But but like, thematically, it also pulls it together, not only from a story point of view, but also from a, like, deep cut fan to casual fan point of view, whatever. It's like, if you had Boba Fett, and you did have Boba Fett, obviously, in the Mandalorian episodes, but if you had Boba Fett on the screen, fighting side to side on Tatooine with Din, and then you have him on Mandalore, whatever, you had it in the this is Star Wars as a whole. This is
Star
the
Wars
sequels.
is constantly flopping. Let's
Star Wars is
let's get that out of the way.
Like, every franchise wants to be Star Wars. They want to get to where Star Wars is going.
The people who are in Star Wars are like, what if we did something else?
What if we flopped? You're like, you already have it. Don't drop it, please. Like, you just want to, like, shake them. I want to shake Jon Favreau. Anyway.
Does anyone have any final thoughts? I'll say mine. My final thoughts, as I've said, the hierarchy of Star Wars shows is Star Wars Rebels is first, the most Zeb. Mandalorian is second. More Zeb than every other show. All the other shows are at rock bottom. No Zeb. So I'm going to make that clear. That being said, I did really enjoy this season. I love Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan is one of my, she's in my, like, in my top Star Wars characters. So I was excited to see her. I think
Carson Teva? It wasn't about Carson?
I'm not talking. You had your time to speak. It's my turn.
Okay.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the season. I loved seeing all of our friends. I think that the show is having a bit of an identity crisis. But I think I still enjoyed it. I had fun.
It was a show. I watched it. Some of it was slayful. Some of it was not slayful. I wish that they had explored the really interesting themes that they set up instead of not doing that. Yeah. Also, I would like more Cobb Vanth. This is the hill that I'm prepared to die on. That is all.
I've said all I wanted to say except for one thing, which is that Jon Favreau, I've already said my problems with you. Rick and Bryce Dallas Howard, I love you both. Dave, I love you, despite various things. I love you very much. However, and I know this is going to sound like a broken record and seem like it's not relevant. However, Andor really hammered this home for me. So you can have gay people in your Star Wars, in your live action Star Wars. You can have gay people. No one at the mouse is stopping you. I mean, maybe they are, because The Mandalorian is the marketable product and Andor is not. You can have gay people in your Star Wars. Tony Gilroy was like, nobody stopped us. We just were like, all right, let's have gay people. And everyone was like, cool, great. So the only reason you don't have gay people in your Star Wars is because you didn't creatively think that they should exist. That there aren't a lot of romantic relationships, certainly not sexual ones, in The Mandalorian in general. It's just like, it is a thing that I do like to bring up every so often of like, okay, so creatively you just don't think we exist. Great, awesome. And, you know, I remember thinking about this, about The Mandalorian, especially when the Andor and the interviews about Andor came out, of like, cool, that's almost worse than the homophobia, is that you just like don't think that we should be included at all. And especially because like we have so many gay people in the High Republic and they're included really casually, and people are like, how could they be included in the High Republic if they're mostly Jedi who don't have relationships? I'm like, they still are able to make that happen. You can, I was like, in the Mandalorian is literally all about families, and you have all these families, and you cannot have not even background Tross lesbians. Really?
Period.
Like,
yeah.
Like it's a stupid thing to complain about, because like there's so many other things to complain about, and really it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it's also like, okay, well, all right, like you can do better. It's just a thing that I like to think about, and also it's like, I do know that they will be delving more into Val and Cinta in Andor season 2, and the gays are going to be holding it the fuck down in The Acolyte. And I know, despite my love for Dave, there will be 0 gay people in Ahsoka, and it's just like, okay, cool. I know Disney, you want to make money off of us. You have Disney Pride Night and whatever. It's like, again, your money, put it where your mouth is. Thank you. This is just my check-in.
And this is how, in season 4 of The Mandalorian, Grogu will come out as transgender. In my essay,
Real.
their first words will be, I use Neo-Pronouns. Or Neo-Pronouns I use, depending on what kind of lore we want to go with Yoda and Yaddle species language patterns.
So, my final thoughts, I mean, like, yeah, there was, like Noah said before, there's parts that were slayful and parts that were not slayful. Overall, when I was watching it, I did enjoy it. I don't know how a season 4 will work, since like the ending of this season, I feel like was a good place to just leave it. But, you know, Jon Favreau, my enemy, as I've stated multiple times before, was like, haha, I don't have an ending written for this.
That's because he's not writing the ending. It's the Dave Filoni movie. He was using legalese.
Nima, I'm talking. But yeah, overall is a fun time. I liked seeing Lizzo and Jack Black in that one episode. They're my besties now. They're the only Star Wars characters that matter to me.
Really do miss that episode of the Rizzalorian.
And I mean, I can't give this that high of a place in my rankings anymore, because there is no Commander Cody at all in any of The Mandalorian ever. So actually, The Mandalorian is not one of my favorite shows because of that. I'm mainly feeling bitchy about this show, learning that they said that he was gonna be in it, and then they were like, no, never mind, we're never gonna call you again. Justice for Tamora Morrison. Boba Fett, my beloved. Boba Fett should have been in the show, even just like if it was just one episode, but all he got was like one like mention in like one of the first episodes where they're just like something about like Tatooine and Boba Fett. I think Pelly was the one who fucking mentioned him. So if we ever get a Book of Boba Fett season 2, I don't want to. Din Djarin, I love you. I love you. I love you. But I want to see your stupid little helmet sticking around, Boba Fett. I no longer support BobaDin. Boba Fett can steal your boyfriend now. It's the Boba Cobb show. The Fennec Boba Cobb little pointed, like, not closed off triangle because Cobb and Fennec are not connected.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my ship.
Bob.
Yeah. That's my take. Din Djarin, again, I love you, but if they ever make a book of Boba Fett, and Jon Favreau puts you in, I will have to be bailed out of jail because I'm kicking Jon Favreau's ass on sight.
Jon Favreau found Dad.
Dear Lord, when I go to heaven, please let me bring my man. Lana Del Rey, Jess era.
Do you think? Okay, I feel like Cobb Vanth is into Lana.
Yeah.
No, because I'm. Here's my thing. Cobb Vanth is a Brooklyn baby stan. He's like, this is the best song ever written.
I feel like Summertime Sadness changed his life. Is the thing.
I know, because she said I got my red dress on tonight. He went, oh my god,
and now he only wears red.
I do.
He was like the person who is like the fortune teller's like, you're going to be wearing a red shirt when you meet the love of your life, so he wears a red shirt every day.
There's a TikTok that I don't think any of you have seen, but it's Lana Del Rey giving an interview, and she's like, I actually do power lift, and then it's someone powerlifting her to her music, and I feel like that's Cobb Vanth. That's something that he would do.
Hello, and welcome to Name That Ship. This is a segment wherein our hosts, or sometimes listeners, have submitted fan fictions. The link to that submission sheet is in the show notes. Have searched the dark reaches of AO3, Archive of Our Own, just for some of the most either cursed fan fiction. Sometimes it's just kind of like fun concepts and we want to talk about it. And we make our fellow hosts guess the ship or name that ship even. This is no hate, of course, to the authors of these fan fictions. You are doing the Lord's work. You're putting in the hours. This is more appreciative of the medium more than anything. So please do not take this as like a shade to you. And also, if you're a listener, don't get up in these people's comments talking mad shit, okay? This is out of love. Today, I have taken over Name That Ship. I've done a hostile takeover. And I'm going to be presenting some fan fictions. Right. Are you all ready? Okay. This first fan fiction is called Acing It. The relationships are character A and character B, character C and character A, character C and character B. So it's A/B, C, character C is just in friendships or platonic relationships with these characters. Additional tags are February Ficlet Challenge, February Ficlet Challenge 2020, married couple, parenthood, coming out, asexual character, asexuality, asexual character C, alternate universe reincarnation, family dinners. Character A and character B are the best dads. Family feels, family fluff. Alternate universe, modern setting. Alternate universe, parents, gay parents.
Okay. Are these characters from The Mandalorian?
No.
Okay.
Are they from Fallen Order?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so
Is one of them Cal Kestis?
Oh, whoa. Cal Kestis is character C.
So is he the son?
He is their son.
Okay.
So these are two men who appear in Fallen Order.
Yes.
Is one Grease?
One is not Grease.
Oh.
Wait, who are there's not that many men
What
in
other
Fallen
men?
Order.
Darth Vader?
No.
Darth Vader being like, this is my son, Cal Kestis. Real.
Was Saw in these tags?
Oh,
I can't
Saw
remember.
Gerrera was not in these tags, and he is not
Oh,
in this ship.
Okay.
What's that guy's name? The fucked up Jedi guy.
Aaron
Not
Malicos?
Tarful.
Oh,
wow. It is not Taron Malicos, and it is not Tarful.
That
would be a fucked up
okay.
ship.
Terran/Tarful so real.
who else
No,
is
but
in
I'm just
Fallen
like, there
Order?
aren't that many men in this game.
Are they, and they're both from Fallen Order?
Yes.
Jaro Tapal?
Jaro Tapal is one of them.
Eno Cordova.
Not Eno Cordova.
Fuck, okay, that's a ship I want.
Yeah.
You're so real for
I
that.
think they've explored each other's bodies.
I don't
Fuck,
think
wait,
so
is it his clone captain? Did he have a name?
No, he did not have a name.
No, it is not him.
Is this other character a Jedi? Like, are they a Force user?
No.
No, they are not.
It's not Grease.
Is it any random Dathomirian man?
It's
who you
not
fight
any
on
of the
Dathomir?
random fucking Dathomirian
The Knight Brothers?
fuckheads. No,
Why
sorry.
are they
Sorry. I need to
could've been?
no. Everyone shut up. Because I recently played a video game for the first time. Well, not for the first time. But I played Jedi Fallen Order to its completion. And let me just tell you, I don't think I felt true aggression in the way that I did seeing all those fucking Knight Brothers come out of fucking nowhere. Like, they were hiding, waiting for Cal. I see Calbert's just
Yes,
like
that
fighting
is
for his
how
fucking
that
life.
works.
Yeah, but he was also going through their village being like, fuck you guys.
Okay, well, maybe if they hadn't been such assholes.
Are you siding with the white guy?
Mel, I think I really want to live in a world where you play God of War 4 and God of War Ragnarok, and I want you to stream that when that happens, because I feel like that was such an interesting moment in human history. Anyway, okay, I think we're running out of. I'm tempted to Google like Fallen Order male cast, and like who is left.
Yeah,
Fallen Order men?
I feel like you have one male character that you have not said yet.
It's not Grease, and it's not
Is
Darth
it the
Vader.
pirate guy?
Pirate guy? No.
Pirate guy.
Yeah,
It
the
is
guy
not.
who had mad beef with Grease.
No.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Also,
Okay.
Also, I don't know if this is just if anyone else who played Fallen Order experienced this, but the random bounty hunter assassins that would come after you, like not just like
yeah.
after the whole Grease situation, like after randomly. So confusing.
I know who
Yeah,
it
they were
is.
fun.
Is it Prof?
It is Prof.
Yes!
Oh, wow.
I'm
Oh my
obsessed
God.
with that.
No, it's such a cute little fan fiction, and it's about
Wow.
Cal coming out as asexual to them.
Oh, that's adorable.
Okay, also, Jaro and Prof, that's...
I love that.
Prof is like, my hands look like this, so his hands can look like this.
Oh,
So
what?
true, so real. Okay, are we ready for the next fic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This next fanfiction is called The Long Road and the Slow Knife.
Ooh.
It's character A/character B. And then I feel like I do need to give you, just so you have some type of grounding in this. The second relationship in this fanfiction is Leia Organa / Han Solo. I guess I should give some context to this. This is a crossover. Upon my reading of the tags a little further, I realized that it is not historical RPF as I first initially thought that it was. However, I'm just saying.
Is it Hitalia?
It is not Hitalia. God, what the fuck?
No, why would that be historical RPF? Those are not like...
No, because
fucking
Mel
Real
said... because Mel-
Germany, real person. Has something.
I don't know why that was my first.
Okay, well, I would not have brought Hitalia to the fucking table.
Is one of the characters Pope Stephen VI?
No, but Noah, I do think you're gonna get a real giggle, real chortle out of this one. So,
Can you read the
Here we
tags,
go.
please?
yes, of course. The tags are prophetic dreams, prophetic vision, self-fulfilling prophecy, drama and romance, slow burn, friendship/love, blank group of people drama, fusion of Star Wars legends and Disney canon, multiple crossovers and fusions, crossover pairings.
Is it Joan of
Is
Arc?
one of the characters Joan of Arc?
No, it is not Joan of Arc.
Who the fuck else is
Damn.
having prophetic visions? I don't give a fuck about anyone else's prophetic visions.
I'm a lot like Joan of Arc, except for instead of liberating France, I kiss men.
Wow, something she definitely didn't do.
Okay. So it's not Joan of Arc. Is it? Okay. Is it anyone within the papacy?
No, it is not in the papacy. However, I will say that the person that is character A in this case, one of their spouses did have hella beef with the Catholic Church.
King Henry VIII?
King Henry VIII is that spouse.
Is this Anne Boleyn?
It is not Anne Boleyn.
Fuck. Is it one of his little bitches?
Yes, it is. This is going to require you guys' fucking
All
knowledge.
right, wait. Is this Catherine of Aragon?
No, it is not Catherine of Aragon.
Anne of Cleves.
Is it Catherine Howard?
It is Catherine Howard. Kate Howard.
Let's
Wait,
go.
wait, Mel.
Is this like a 6 crossover?
Yeah,
No,
is
it is not.
six?
No, it is
It's
not.
just the real
Is it a
people?
rated
It is,
crossover?
it is the Tudors TV crossover,
Oh.
which I didn't realize. I just saw Catherine Howard / this Star Wars character.
Luke
and said,
Skywalker.
Wait, not Luke Skywalker.
Wait, is it a man
it is
from
a
Star
man.
Wars?
It's a
It's a
fusion
man.
of Legends. So is it a Legends character?
No, it is not.
I was like, is it?
He
Thrawn.
might appear in Legends. I just don't know. Thrawn, it is not.
Oh.
Oh,
Are
okay,
they human?
Yoda. Thrawn, it is not.
What did you say, Claudia?
Are they human?
Perhaps.
What do you mean, perhaps?
Perhaps.
Are they a clone? Is it Luke with 2 U's?
It is not Luke with 2 U's, and no, it is not Gareth.
Fuck.
Is it a clone?
No, it is not a clone.
What do you mean human question mark? Like, are they or are they
mean,
not?
If I say what I want to say,
Is it Valence?
it is not
Are they
Valence.
a cyborg?
Yeah, in a sense, in a way.
Is it Grievous?
It is not Grievous.
He's
I
not
would
human
like Grievous
also.
/ Catherine Howard. That would be very powerful.
I think Beeler would be good to her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Certainly
I-
better than Henry VIII.
Yeah, better than fucking
Okay, well-
Henry that's fucking 8th. God
Okay,
damn.
well, that bar's in the fucking ground.
Okay. So it's all right. Okay. And okay.
I'm trying to think of who would
I
look
got
good with
nothing.
who would be good with her. I've never seen
Okay,
the show The
here-
Tudors.
Is
so...
this what you describe as a popular character?
This is a popular character. That
Lando.
being said, just because they're shipped together doesn't mean that they're a good ship. Like,
It's not
not to
Lando.
not to make it concerning. It is not Lando.
Damn.
Like, I don't
Paz
think.
Vizsla.
No, not Paz
yeah,
Vizsla.
possibly
I'm just
he may
like,
have appeared in Legends. Yeah.
I just don't feel like I could treat her better. You know?
Is it from the original trilogy?
Yes,
That era, or are they in the movies?
they're in the movies.
Oh.
C-3PO.
Oh my
Not
god, is
Tokyo.
it Lobot?
It is not Lobot.
Oh, I forgot there's.
Why would it be Lobot?
Is it one of those like fucked up things on Tatooine that's like the brain in the jar with the legs that walks around?
No.
A Bamar monk?
Is it
Yeah. Is it one of
Dengar?
those?
I wish it was a Bomar monk. It is not Dengar.
Damn,
Guys,
Dengar's
guys,
better.
you guys are going too specific. I need you guys to pan out. Think
Han
about
Solo?
Is it
not Han Solo.
No.
like the Morian Guard? Is it the droid
Not-
with a foot fetish?
No, you want to get
What?
it way too like glup shit-y.
Is it Darth Vader?
Obi-Wan?
It is Darth Vader.
I swear to
Okay,
God,
he's human.
Did I-
Free? Oh my god,
He's
free
human?
Catherine Howard.
Oh yeah, he is a cyborg.
Okay, and when I said, are they a cyborg, Mel was like, didn't say yes,
Yes,
or
they
no.
said yes.
No, Mel said yes. That's why I was like, is it Beeler?
When
Wait,
you said,
Darth
are they a
Vader's-
human?
Wait, Darth Vader /
That's somehow worse than Henry VIII.
Right, no, this is why I'm like, free him.
Oh,
No, because
wow.
also
Free
this
him?
is- no, because here's the thing.
Noah.
Let me know. No,
What'd you
here's
say,
the thing,
free
guys.
him?
Here's the thing, though, guys.
Oh.
Here's the thing, though, guys.
Misgendering Catherine Howard as.
Here's the thing, though. Guys. Mm-mm. The first time that Kitty Howard ran into Anakin Skywalker, she was assigned to Anne of Cleves' retinue. She was part of the king's welcoming party for his future wife. Rumor had it that the king could not wait to get rid of his ungrateful brat, the Lady Mary. His eldest daughter had been rebellious for far too long, and the king had been far too tolerant, but finally his patience had run thin. That is the first paragraph of that fanfiction.
Oh wow.
Holy shit.
Wow.
I mean, good for her, I guess.
No, it's
I don't
not good
know.
for her. I'm like, Kitty, get out of there. Free my girl.
This is the Star Wars version of being sold to One Direction.
No, basically.
No.
Anyways, I do have one last fan fiction. Would you guys like to come into
Absolutely.
the space with me? All right, this is a fan fiction called Days Like These. Character relationships are I'm just gonna focus on character A and character B. Background: Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss. Characters are character that would spoil it. Another character who would spoil it. Character B. Character A. Character who would spoil it. Garazeb Aurelios. Asajj Ventress, Quinlan Vos, Alexander Callis, and another character who would spoil it. Additional tags. Order 66 didn't happen. Star Wars. Heists. Implied referenced alcohol abuse, alcoholism. Spa treatments. This type of character shenanigans. Xenophobia against non-humans. Slice of life. Established popular ship. Some angst similar to Part 1. The Jedi have PTSD, but equally plenty of fluff.
Is one of these characters a Jedi?
Both of them are Jedi.
Are they prequel Jedi, or do they appear in the Clone Wars mostly?
One of them appears in the... Well, actually, she does not. Oh, I just spoiled it. One of them is, at least one of them is a woman. She does not appear in the Clone Wars, but we know for a fact that she existed during both of them in the prequel era, though they are not featured heavily in prequel era content.
Yeah,
Depa Billaba.
Depa Billaba is one of them.
Is it Depa with a woman?
It is Depa Billaba with a woman.
Oh!
Serve.
Okay, and they said these are characters that would have spoiled it, so, like, who are characters associated with
So
characters
the character who would have spoiled on one half, one of them was Kanan. And then the other two are featured heavily in the piece of media character A is in.
So I like that. Okay. So is this character from the movies? This other
No.
character? Okay, so is this a character from Star Wars Rebels?
I never said that.
Not from Clone Wars and not from Rebels. Not from
Yep.
the Bad Batch.
Nope.
Not from the Mandalorian.
Nope.
But around the same age as Depa?
Yes.
From the... Are they... Is this a non-human?
This is a human.
Okay, so it's two humans. Is it Mon Mothma?
It is not Mon Mothma.
Fuck.
No, it's a Jedi.
A Jedi, right. I'm out. Mon Mothma's a Jedi in my AU. So
she exists in the Clone Wars era, but she's not really featured in the Clone Wars TV show.
No.
Is she in the prequel movies?
No.
Is she from a book?
She is in a book.
Is she heavily featured in a book?
I have not read the book, so I can't speak to that.
Which book?
Well,
I can't
on
say
behalf of
spoiler.
Claudia, I think that would give it
So
away.
it's a prequel era book.
I would not say it's a prequel era book.
Is it a High Republic book?
It is not a High Republic.
That
That's
would be
hilarious.
Hilarious. It's fucking
Gela
Gela.
Natai.
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah.
The Ahsoka novel?
Not the Ahsoka novel.
The Padme novels?
The book came out within the last year.
Oh, is it
Battlestar?
Is it Seer?
It is Seer Junda.
Oh
shit!
That is actually that's so
Wait,
slayful.
no,
Good for
'cause
them.
Oh wow.
So was the other
obsessed
character that
with
would have given
that.
it away like Cal or
Yeah,
something?
it is Cal and Marin.
Oh.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I'm like grinning ear to ear. That's so cunt.
It's such a good fic.
Kanan and Cal being like, my moms are dating.
Help, our moms
Trilla-
are dating.
Okay, Trilla and fucking Kanan being
Kanan,
like step siblings.
step siblings? Oh god. Oh lord.
I know that Trilla's putting her headphones in at family dinner time. It's like, fuck you
She's-
guys.
No, she's flipping Kanan off in the most tactful ways as to do when like a teenager does, so that their parents don't see them flipping off their sibling. So like Kanan would be like, Depa, Trilla flipped me off, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just applying this chapstick.
Also, I do like that Zeb and Callus are also in this. What are you guys doing here? Silly?
Wait, who are the other characters who are there? Or did you say all of them?
I said
Cal,
basically
Marin,
all of them. Yeah. Also, for
Kanan,
some
and-
reason, Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos are also
Yeah,
Slay.
well, because they should always be there. Let's be real.
I think Asajj Ventress, Seer, and Depa going on a little spa adventure is so slay.
and
So true.
the idea that Quinlan would be jealous. He would want to go.
Yeah, he would want to go, and they're like, it's girls' night. He's like, I don't get to go to girls'
He'd be
night.
like, wow, fucked up of you guys.
And they're like, sorry, only Sapphics here. And he's like, I hate it. I hate this.
Listen, I feel like Quinlan Voss could use they them pronouns. You could classify him as a Sapphic.
Yeah. He's a he-they lesbian.
Period. We have a couple announcements before we get into our outro. So you guys know, as you probably noticed, we're going every 2 weeks now until we have more content to talk about. The other thing, our 2-year anniversary was on May 6th. We have a very special episode planned to celebrate. We've already talked a little bit about it on social media, but I would like to be the first to announce in audio format the Zebbies. It is a RuPaul's Pod Race original awards show. This will be the 2022 Zebbies, so every piece of media from 2022 will, Star Wars media, of course, we will be giving awards to, and we will talk more about it in that episode. It's going to be coming out next time you hear from us. So our next episode will be the Zebbies. Very exciting. We do have a category that is audience choice. It is Glup Shido of the Year. And again, that's for 2022. So refrain from choosing characters from 2023 or 2021, specifically for last year. We have a Google form that you can fill out, that you can submit the character that you think is the Glup Shido of the Year. It's going to be in our show notes. It's also going to be on our social media. So go check it out. And please submit something. We're very excited to do this. So it'll be super fun. We want your input. We need your input. And with that, thank you so much for listening and joining us this week for RuPaul's Pod Race. As I said, we're going to be going bi-weekly now, so episodes are going to come out every other Sunday. For updates, Star Wars news, more curse shit, you can follow us on social media. We're at RuPaul's Pod Race basically everywhere. If you would like to ask us a question or get in contact with us, you can send stuff to our TikTok Q&A, our Tumblr Ask Box. You can email us at RuPaul'sPodRace@gmail.com. If you really like the show, please rate and review it. You know, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Spotify, Overcast, or just tell a friend. All of those really help us out. May the Force be with you, and don't kriff it up. Waka waka.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
This is a waka.